All right, guys, it's July 25th. I just signed closing docs for Edgewater Self-Storage in Florida. About like New Smyrna Beach, a little bit north of Orlando, about an hour. This lead actually came from social media, from me talking about self-storage. I got somebody who knew I was in the business, and they sent me over a referral essentially for this property. So I bought this property for $1 million. The property, when we first contracted it, was about 50%, 55% occupied. So half of it was empty essentially, and only producing, I believe it was about $7,000 a month. So it's producing $7,000 a month gross. That's the gross income. So the problem with that is a lot of times a bank, a traditional lender, doesn't like that at that occupancy level. So it'll be tough to get financing on a property that's only 55% occupied. So my approach with the seller was to offer a deal on terms. So we structured a deal where they were gonna finance 70% of this. So the down payment is 300 grand and seller finance, 700,000, 5.5% interest only. So this allows me to get into the property, 30% down, interest only for 2 years, and bring this property up to a higher occupancy so I can refinance or sell. For the seller, he got this property at, I think it was like 0% occupancy, maybe 10%. So they got a much better deal than the $1 million. They did their add value. They got it to 50% occupied. They did some work. They did some roof work. They added a gate. So they did a lot of the upfront work, and they have a property manager on site, on call on site. And so they created value and they're selling. So we're gonna look to do the same thing. And they were easy to work with, that we can work this seller finance deal. And this opportunity is gonna be run rampant here in this coming months with the inflation and the rates that are currently out there right now. So you always wanna be making seller finance offers. So for us, we got into this property for $300,000 out of pocket. And currently now, about 2 months later when we're closing, the current income just by running the business is now at 10.5. So now at closing, they've already added value just in the 2 months because it's a hot market and they're running the business. They're not gonna stop running their business in case we don't close or whatever may happen. So already we've increased the value of this property. The value of the property has increased without having been doing anything. GPRI, the gross potential rental income for this property, is right about 15,000. It's like 14 and change. Oh, let's see. Yeah, 14,769. So it's like right at 15,000. So that's like what it should, if it's fully occupied, that's what it should rent, getting street rates. So it should get pulled about 15,000 a month. So we were about 50% of the way there. Now we're a lot closer. So we don't have that much more to do for ourselves. Ideally, it's gonna be more marketing. I don't think they're really spending money on marketing. So SEO marketing, which is search engine optimization, PPC marketing, pay-per-click marketing, and just more signage. I think that the property lacks signage. There's a couple things that we're also gonna do to reduce expenses. So the add value for us on this property is, one, increasing the occupancy. So now I think they said they're like 75% occupied. And their rates on, you know, they're not super competitive. So like there is even room to increase rents. Maybe not like a ton. Like we've had some deals where we're increasing rents 30, 50%. That's what probably is maybe about like 10, 15% rent increase. There's no tenant insurance. So tenant insurance is typically like $9, $12, $9, $10. And you can get, based on negotiating with a carrier, you can get between like 33% to 50%, sometimes even more, depending on which carrier. So that's a rental, this is an income source to increase value. It goes right to your bottom line. Really doesn't increase expenses at all. So these are some of the increases here. And then we're gonna reduce a little bit of expenses. So the manager already on site gets a pretty good rate of what we typically charge, which is, I believe, is like $600 or $700, and she gets like 2 units. So it's right about 1,000 a month. And so that's pretty in line with how we typically run our facility. So we're gonna keep that the same. She's gonna keep her on staff. They had good things about her. So we're gonna meet her in the next couple days, and we'll have a video on that as well. But we're gonna try to reduce some expenses. So this is all climate control. It's 13,500 square feet of net rentable square footage. So this property is all climate control. So for us, obviously there's a cost for utility bill, the electricity. So one thing this property does have is no insulation. So we're gonna add insulation to the property. So that's a $10,000 expense. We're gonna put gutters on the property to obviously have the water not go towards the foundation. That is $6,500. We're gonna fix some of the fencing. I already got quotes on all this. So this is all I did during due diligence. I reviewed all their financials, their lease leases, all their info, their rent rolls, everything. We got a phase 1 on the property that came back clean. That's an environmental study to make sure there's no issues on the soil or the ground or anything like that. Survey came back good. I think it's pretty much everything we had there done. Inspection came back good. There's no issues with the roof, the foundation. A couple things were a little came up with the electrical, but that was actually fixed by the seller. And so really the only thing that came up was there's no installation in the property, so that could help save cost. And then we're gonna add a camera system. So the camera system is $15K. That's cameras, insulation, gutters, fence. So we're only really gonna put about 30 grand, 32,000 into this property. So this is really the only add value of things this property is lacking. Has a fence, has an automated gate. It just really needs a couple little items here, which will help reduce expenses and future long-term issues that it could have, obviously like with the gutters and whatnot. So this is literally all we're gonna do besides doing marketing to increase the monthly gross rent to as close to the 15K as possible. So now I'll show you how how we underwrote the deal prior, and we'll recover that. All right, so again, we contracted this property for $1 million purchase price. We contracted it at $7,500 a month gross income, $7,000 a month gross income, but now it's bringing in $10,582 a month gross. So the seller is lending us $700,000, 5.5% interest only, and the debt service, debt service is $32.10 a month. So we're trying to find out what we're netting in the current cash on cash return, because we're out of pocket 400 grand, which covers the 30% down plus closing costs plus the add value that we just went over. So, and we'll have a little bit extra operating capital left over. And so we're all in 400 grand on this property. So 35% expenses on the 10,582, it is 3685. So 3685. So we're gonna take this gross amount, subtract the debt service, subtract the expenses. Typically, obviously, you would track expenses first and then debt service, typically on a P&L. But so that would equal 3687. So that is your cash flow. So cash flow after debt service and expenses is 3,086 a month. Times that by 12 is 44,244 for the year. If we didn't do any more add value of bringing in more rent than they're currently doing, we would be netting 44,000 on 400 grand we put in. So that'd be a cash on cash return of 11%. That's a relatively pretty good deal as takeover. We're not gonna have to do anything else. At takeover, essentially right now, it's 11% cash on cash return. But this loan is not gonna stay here for long, it's only a 2-year balloon. So we don't have a ton of time. So what we're gonna do is try to increase the value even more and then sell or refinance. Ideally, we're looking to sell this one. And so to show you what those numbers look like. So if we can get the gross potential revenue to 15,000 and say let's take away 10% for vacancy, so that'd be 1,500. 35% for expenses. And that would give you, okay, yep. So that's 82.5 a month times 12 will give you 99,000 as your net operating income. So this is your NOI. So we can bring the NOI to 99,000, which shouldn't be that difficult with the trajectory of them going from 7,000 in gross to 10.5 in gross in literally 2 months. We should be able to, with more add value, with doing some more work to the property, with doing more marketing. Obviously we could do some sales, some discounts to get people in. We should be able to get to this pretty easily. And with the NOI at 99,000, if it was a 7 cap, that's at a 7 cap is 1.141285 million. And at, let's say, a 6 cap, so you just take this number divided by 0.07 or divided by 0.06, that's 165. So if we can get it at a 6 cap, get this, do this add value, get the property at valuation of 1.65 million, and then we put it on the market and sold it, paying a broker 2.5% and paying closing costs about 2.5% as well. So it's 5% off, so minus 5% for closing costs and commissions. That's 1,567,500. And then we're all in at 1.1. So it's a profit of 467. We could probably do this in a year, if not 18 months, but 1,000, I feel confident we can get this done in a year. Do the add value, get it, put it back on the market and sell it within 1 year and profit 467,000 on one storage deal. There's obviously numbers we can run to refinance it, but that's a pretty good profit that for an easy deal, I would take that all day long and potentially sell this. You know, there's ways we can even package it with other properties we own and possibly get a lower cap rate. But I think for a one-off deal, I think this could move and make a lot of cents. Even at these numbers, you're still making a couple $100,000. That's good profit for something that's relatively easy. The best part about all this is I'm borrowing this $400K. So I'm not even putting up that $400K. So for a year on this property, if I borrow this money, I will have to pay 10%, which is $40,000. So if I borrow this money for a whole year, say $40,000 off of this, so I actually make $427,000 with none of my own money in the deal at all. So this is how we borrow, this is how we leverage relationships, we leverage our investors, and with our experience. Because I have experience, an investor will lend me this capital to be able to do these deals because I've done them before for her and gave her great profit. So this is how you can buy properties, whether it's a single family house, a self-storage facility, a multifamily, you can buy these properties with no money out of your pocket. So this is how I'm buying this property, owning 100% of it and having no money out of pocket and doing a quick flip on this property. I do have the potential, if it doesn't sell, maybe I don't get the number I want, to refinance, and say I'm like around this range. I can refinance and maybe be in 150 grand. I would pay back my investor, ask them maybe if they want to stay in, pay her back as much as possible, keep 150K in and give her a percentage of ownership. And I could stay in the deal with no money, like still giving up some ownership and just cash flowing this property. So this is how you can learn to do these types of deals, to buy properties with no money down at all. So if you need help, if you were trying to find some of these deals and trying to make these opportunities happen, we're willing to help and partner on these opportunities with you. So please reach out, bring us some opportunities. The same way somebody brought me this deal, I was gonna maybe give him a piece of this property. He wanted some education and training. So I'm gonna help them grow their business, and in turn, they're helping me take down assets. So if you can do the same, we love to partner up, whether it's on self-storage or single family, multifamily, let us know, and stay tuned for the next case study and more videos on this property. Stop what you're doing and make sure you subscribe to follow more videos on how to buy properties, commercial and single family, and take them down with no money down.